Ladies and gentlemen, India's AI ambitions are soaring high. Let's stick to the subject a bit more. Let's talk about India's AI ecosystem where sovereign backing meets innovation. How is India fueling homegrown AI and what's the funding play? From policy push to startup spark, how's the government shaping India's AI narrative? Joining us are leaders who are the vanguard of this scorching transformation to discuss the investments, to discuss the challenges, and of course the impact. Please welcome Abhishek Singh, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, onto the stage for a brief conversation with Nalin Mehta. They will later then be joined by Shashi Shekhar, Empathy Co-founder, Deep Tech Bharat Foundation, Spiros Magaris, VC, AI and FinTech Fund Manager, Nagendra Nagaraja, founder, QPi AI, and Sunil Gupta, co-founder, Q New Labs.
Thank you very much. Mr. Singh, thanks very much for joining us. And we have a stellar panel lined up just after we we end our conversation. But you are the man who's heading the India AI mission. We've just had the India AI Impact Summit. The minister was here yesterday, and he talked about how India needs about 2 lakh GPUs on the table. Currently, we are somewhere around between 35,000 to about 50,000. So how do you do the scale up? What is your perspective on, in the next few months, how do we go from that number to the 2 lakh that the minister is talking about?
See, like we do have almost 38,000 plus another 24,000 in the pipeline, 62,000, but that what we did was sufficient for training the first set of models. Sarvam just made the presentation of what they were able to achieve in the last 6 to 8 months with the GPUs that we had made available. But as we move forward and if we have to do inferencing at scale, given the size of our country, even if 100 million to 200 million people, 10 to 20 crore people, if they start using these services for various in healthcare, in agriculture, in education, we will need to append the back-end infrastructure. That will mean having much larger set of GPUs. So 100 to 200,000 GPUs is something that the minimum that we will need in order to meet the demand of India. So what we are trying to do is that come up with a policy which ensures that we incentivize the private sector to invest into the compute infrastructure. So part of the GPUs will be provided by the private sector, which will be incentivized by the government so that they are able to provide this for the larger AI ecosystem. The inferencing applications in key public sectors like agriculture, education or healthcare will be funded by the government in many ways. And then for strategic sectors, for use in defense and for use in strategic sectors, we will need to set up our own GPU infrastructure within the government data centers.
So, Mr. Singh, you oversee the India AI mission, you're also the DG for the National Informatics Center, you oversee emerging technologies, cybersecurity, digital skilling. So you really have a big picture view of the AI ecosystem. One of the things that we've been talking about in the last few weeks is about the idea of sovereign AI, right? That why we need to have indic models and all of those things. The question is that in a world of, say, black box global models, now while the need for sovereignty in AI is paramount, what happens when the global models actually, for users, turn out to be more useful or better than the indic models? How do you address that kind of challenge till the time we reach that scale?
See, that's in the short term, because even if you look at the global models, if you look at where they have evolved, for example, even if you look at ChatGPT, what they were at 3.0, what they were 4.0, 4.2, and what the 5.2. The models have evolved. The amount of hallucination that you used to see is much lesser. The pace at which models are evolving and the pace at which models are becoming better, and they become better with usage. So more and more Indians using it, more and more people across the world using it, the models become better. So Indian models, Sarvam or Indus, which has been launched, and some more which are in the pipeline, the more we start using it, the more we start using it in Indian languages, the more we start using it in Indian context, they will become better versions of what they are. And currently also in many Indian language parameters and benchmarks, the Sarvam's model has performed way better than any of the top models that we are talking about. So I am fully confident that we will be able to, our models, Indian models, the sovereign models will be able to compete with the best. Only condition is that we should be willing to use them and not become dependent on the models about which we don't know what they are doing.
So of course, as far as use case on population scale is concerned, the global companies are also using India on a population scale for trial. That's why you're seeing so many investments in GCCs and on AI in India. India is almost like the use case capital of the world for AI at the moment. So now, at the summit, there was a call for India to be the architect of global AI. Now, from your point of view, what is it that India can bring to the table that Silicon Valley can't? So when you're talking to leaders from the global south at the India Impact Summit, what is the one thing they were looking to you for, which the Americans or others can't deliver?
See, like our biggest strength has been the talent. And almost every big tech company, whether an AI company or otherwise, relies a lot on Indian talent. Unfortunately, our talent leaves India and goes to the West, where they're able to access funding and support from the big tech ecosystem, and they create IP there. What we are trying and what this summit has changed is that people are looking at, if the talent is here, then why don't we invest in the talent within India, the funds and all the announcements have been made, so the IP gets created here. So one, the big tech company is looking for talent. In fact, today also there is a story that that the hiring of Indian AI talent has gone up. Then we are also looking at the whole approach towards building AI. The human-centric approach, Honorable Prime Minister spoke about the Manav philosophy. That is something with the larger world, the global majority aligns more with. So with the kind of talent we had and the ability that we have to build, we are attracting the best of the global companies here. And the second thing which many of the CEOs, the top CEOs who were here, they were amazed to see the response that the Impact Summit had. And they were saying that if 500,000 people in India, students, youth and engineers can come for an Impact Summit in one city, imagine the appetite for usage of AI tools that the country has. So they of course are looking at one for talent and one for the market that we have for the AI products and services they are building.
So, see, for the last 2 years, the conversation has been about securing GPUs, about establishing the India AI mission and to scale up very fast. Now that the hardware is actually, mission is operational, now the hardware is landing, we are scaling up. Transitioning from there, from the compute to actual economic value, what are the big challenges there? And I want to ask you specifically about resources, because this year's India AI mission budget is about 1,000 crores. Last year it was 2,000 crores. 2 years ago, for a 5-year period, the cabinet had approved somewhere around 10,500 crores for a 5-year period. When we are talking about India AI mission 2.0, what will that look like and what will that cost? Or what should that cost?
Yeah. See, like, I would say that we should not look into these budgetary figures of 1,000, 2,000 crore, because these are money which the government is allocating. But the way we have approached the implementation of the project, of the AI mission, like for example, the 38,000 GPUs which have been set up, they have not been procured by the government. Had we procured it, it would have cost around 20,000 crores. But we came out with a strategy in which we incentivized the private sector to invest into the compute infrastructure. So actual compute expenditure has been in excess of 20,000 crores. And then we also have looked into the investments that other companies are making. Like at the summit only, we heard investments of $250 billion plus. Google announced an investment of $15 billion in data center. So all of it is actually going into the investment into AI ecosystem. Very often we make the mistake of comparing government's expenditure with what we hear in the West. For example, OpenAI says $500 billion Stargate. But that Stargate investment is not the US government investment. That is the private sector investment, and actually some of the Stargate investment will also come into India. So our investments are no less compared to what's happening elsewhere. And number two, from the government side, for the public services, for the inferencing, for the 200,000 GPUs, we have a commitment of the government that whatever funding is required, we will be able to get that. So I don't see that as an obstacle or a hurdle in realizing our AI dreams.
Right. So let me push you a little bit on this. I understand the point about state funding versus private funding, and you're absolutely right on that. But in terms of the wider ecosystem of funding, fundamentally developing AI is hugely costly, right? So where does India stack up in vis-a-vis the Chinese or the Americans right now, in your view, for the wider ecosystem as a whole in terms of resource allocations? And secondly, the AI for all vision was endorsed by about 90 countries at the summit. You were there. When you looking for realities for the global, so what is the one big thing from India which can go global in the way that UPI did, or we have now agreements with several countries on UPI? So what, from an AI point of view, what is the one big thing that you think will have real legs with the global south at the moment for taking out of India to other countries?
See, like when the countries of global south they look at India as a trusted country and a country which has used technology for implementing large-scale digital transformation projects which have been scaled up. So whether it's our identity project or whether it's our payments project or the DigiLocker and the other Diksha, the whole digital public infrastructure. So the whole global south looks up at India as a leader in providing these services. So the natural conclusion is that when it comes to AI and the way India has implemented AI solutions and given our AI skills and talent that we have, there is a lot of trust of the countries of global south in looking at India as a trusted partner for providing AI solutions. And if you look at the declaration that was signed by 92 countries now, other countries also have joined in Colombia, Costa Rica, Guatemala in the last few days. So it brought together the entire, in the current state of geopolitics, getting the United States, China, Russia, Brazil, European Union, UK, all of them come on one table and agree to a draft. It required a lot of effort. It required burning the midnight oil, but our teams were able to do that. And the same follow-up when countries are looking at adopting AI, the way India has approached AI, the way India is trying to use AI for solving societal problems, the way we are using AI for farmers, the way AI for healthcare, there's a lot of belief and trust in the global south countries that this will happen. In fact, one of the working group recommendations about setting out the MATRI as the common compute infrastructure, just like we have made GPUs available, affordable to all, there is a proposal in the working group recommendation to set up a common facility that can service the global south. So that's what the countries, the global south are looking at.
Right. On that note, let's expand the conversation and bring the panel on stage. May I invite Shashi Shekhar Vempati, co-founder, Deep Tech and Bharat Foundation, AI4India.org, Spiros Magaris, venture capitalist and founder, Magaris Ventures, Dr. Nagendra Nagaraj, founder, CEO and chairman, QPI AI, and Sunil Gupta, co-founder and CEO, Q&U Labs. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and welcome to this conversation. So Shashi, let me begin with you as we expand this conversation. So firstly, welcome to the Rising Bharat Summit. You have often emphasized that AI must be a national capability rooted in Indian languages. How do we move from just training engineers to making AI tools accessible for a farmer or a small business owner in rural India? What is the one human skill that you believe will still remain very valuable in what is increasingly going to be an automated economy? Your perspective on some of these big picture issues.
Sure. So I think the language diversity that we have in India, often is looked upon as a barrier. But it's also, I think, a great opportunity, right? Because now you can potentially, with models like what Sarvam that was just demonstrated, what BharatJan is building, and looking at the voice capabilities, you can open up now opportunities to every part of India. For example, All India Radio creates content in almost 100 plus dialects, right? And when you look at a region like the Northeast, there are so many languages which probably don't even have a written script. Now, if you could use AI to unlock the commerce potential where, someone living in down south is able to transact without any barriers with, someone in the Northeast, you're looking at, immense economic opportunity there. So that's one aspect that I see from, investing in languages and building AI models in Indian languages. Of course, to the question of, what human capability can be augmented with AI, I think one of the most important things is going to be the very Indian sort of innate, intrinsic, traditional knowledge. What the Prime Minister spoke about in Man Ki Baat on Gyan Bharatam is a great example where you're unlocking the richness of Indian traditional knowledge using the power of AI.
Also, as we go forward, increasingly our memories itself change, right? I mean, increasingly what is recorded is what AI is kind of put forward. So it's very important to record all of that and putting Indian knowledge on that. Let me ask you, Spiros, from a VC's perspective, yes. India has sort of privileged innovation over restraint in many ways. So when you compare the ecosystem in India with the ecosystem in, say, Europe, which is in a regulatory, from a regulatory perspective, a lot more rigid, where do you see India in the global firmament from where you sit as a VC?
I mean, I I'm globally. We have office in California, with Saudi Arabia. You know, I don't really compare India with Europe. I think India has its own place. But it's not America yet. And that also has to do something with the perception that it's very hard to invest unless you have, you're based here. And I think from what my experience, just personally, the Indian people, extremely polite. I mean, this was a very beautiful experience I had here. And modesty, I tell all my startups, modesty is a very bad thing. You know, in the business we are, we have to proclaim we are the best, like we did a little bit, and then go back and say, hey, I was on this podium and I said we're the best, and now we have to deliver on this. And I think the Americans are just much better at, besides of producing great solutions, but also market it better. You know, and I think that's something that India has to do more. And that's why maybe the perception from outside is not as strong as it should be from its talent. But if you look to America of the consequences maybe of immigration, of talent, and the leadership of Indians as CEO roles, you can tell, you should imply from this that there's so much talent here that India should one day, and I hope, and I think not because I'm here now, it's probably closer than later, play on the same level like America and China, you know. But it takes, like everything in life, with success comes confidence, and we keep learning. It's not about knowledge, it's not about smartness, because here is too much of it, which is a compliment, and hardworking. But at the end of the day, it's like you have a beautiful voice. If nobody hears it, it's just a voice.
So, so there is an American model, and maybe dare I say a Chinese model, and there has to be an Indian model as well, somewhere in the middle. Let me ask Nagendra. See, QPI AI aims to bridge the gap between hardware and generative AI. Why is it essential? And you guys are building a whole bunch of stuff. Why is it essential for India to build its own superconducting qubits right now instead of, say, relying on global cloud providers? I mean, what's your perspective on this? I mean, I just wanted to understand your perspective so we get a deeper sense of where the whole AI movement in India is going.
Yeah, I agree with him. You have to always say you're the best. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay, the second thing, if you look at the company is formed on our objective is, if you look at company objective in MCA, it's all about intelligence modeling, intelligence compute, via quantum computer. I never use the word AI. The reason is very simple. The process of intelligence is first depends on data. We don't believe that the data what you have currently, you're creating the base models, is the biggest data you have. The biggest data you have is the data in nature, which is the quantum data. And today we have a frenzy about the foundation model. We try to do that way back in 2020, 22 somewhere, when we have this attention is all, you need the paper, the transformer paper. And we are working with the largest pharma company in the world, Lilly. We're working with the largest, one of the largest automotive company. Students, we are building some great pharmaceutical models there. But it's all based on a quantum data.
Right.
And the reason why we are building, we have our own fab, by the way. We have invested $20 million in the fab, and it has come up in Bangalore. We are going to soon inaugurate that. It can do many kinds of qubit. And today, if you look at, we're talking about Stargates, right? So what you're going to do with Stargate is you have this data, digitized data, you're going to feed it, and you're going to feed it to the computers, GPUs, the silicon, which is worth $500 billion. And let me give a perspective of what it can do and what it cannot do. You have a chemical called chemical, which is formed when plant absorb the fertilizers, right? You can put together all the supercomputer together in the world, will not be able to replicate that reaction. And you have photosynthesis, which has 90% energy efficiency conversion. You can put together all those GPUs together, and by the way, I worked in NVIDIA before this, okay? So you will not be able to replicate photosynthesis. The problem we are solving is really making this happen. In addition to that, we're not stopping at the chip. We are forming something called as Quantum Supremacy Center in Bangalore in a 10-acre land. Okay, we just procured the land. which will have around 100,000 qubit machine, and we will have around 10,000 logical qubits. And you can put Stargate next to QSC, but still we will solve some problem it will not be able to solve. So that's an extent of hardware software co-integration we are doing. Yeah.
So Nagan, you've been like a serial entrepreneur as well as a researcher. So let me ask you, beyond the lab, which sectors is it where we can see the first radical quantum AI breakthrough from where you sit? Is it healthcare, material sciences, finance? What's your perspective on this? Where we likely to see the first real big breakthroughs from a quantum AI point of view?
Yes, the first applications will be with nature and wherever you have molecules. Okay, so today we know around 10 power 10 molecules, and in future for sustainability and also something like precision medicine and precision manufacturing with precision material, you do require 10 power 50 molecules. So 10 power 10 molecules we took around 5,000 years. So I'm talking about all the real problem. I'm not talking about processing a human language and making automation. These are real problems. And it has a huge impact on the humanity. This will have extremely huge impact on humanity. We require 10 power 50 molecules. You don't have 25,000 years for that. So that's where the application of quantum comes. So today we are doing something in pharma. Also we did work with largest cosmetic company in the world on the chemicals. Okay. So our aim is to, the reason why we are forming this QSC, Quantum Supremacy Center in Bangalore, we are investing 1,300 crores there. Already it is done. Okay. So he is to make sure that we solve all these hard problems, and mostly all these problems are pertaining to materials and the chemistry and also security, okay, financial security as well as cyber security. These are the areas that will be impacted by quantum.
Right. So Sunil, if I can bring you into the conversation, at the AI Impact Summit, you were talking about a hybrid quantum network. You focused a lot on cybersecurity in your work. So as sort of AI becomes the brain of our national superstructure, if you can explain to us why quantum safe encryption, for example, is absolutely necessary today as opposed to being a future nice to have luxury. You can give your perspective to us on that aspect of AI.
So our perspective is that in the post AI and quantum world, and India is becoming one of the largest economy. There's no digital economy without digital trust. And trust today, if you look at it, AI, the trust is in the models, trust is in the data, trust is the training data. And if you're not able to protect that, then sovereignty is at risk. Yeah. So, and similarly, what is happening is that both AI and quantum computers are now threatening the encryption, which is the foundation of trust, right? Whether internet security, if you look at it. And as you know today, the world is at the verge of one of the biggest migration of its all time, right? Where in the next 3 to 5 years, the whole world will migrate from current encryption to a quantum safe encryption. The mandates have come, timelines have been drawn. And the good part is, and that is where I think India being the leading country in terms of digital economy, I think it becomes very, very important for us to look at security and data security very, very seriously. We also have a thesis that 50 years ago, during the Cold War, around that time, countries used to own nuclear codes. Because whoever owned nuclear codes, they are the... But today, in the digital economy, you need to own encryption keys. And today, if you see the West, what they're trying to do, they drive the standards, they build the products where you drive and store the encryption keys, how the encryption keys are used, where you store them, and they have the monopoly today. Yeah. Right? So India has to play, and around 2016 when we started CUNY Labs, idea was take a very forward call that a time will come when, around this time, when India needs to play a much larger role. And if we miss this window of opportunity, then we may have AI, we may have quantum computers and other stuff, but we will not have our sovereignty, right?
So Sunil, I'll come back to you on this. And since on that note on sovereignty, there's been a lot of talk about full stack sovereignty, right? So we are maybe 2, 3, 4 years away from full stack sovereignty, Mr. Singh. So in your view, what is the most critical layer of that stack? Is it chips, is it data, or the models? In your view, how do you see this move towards full stack sovereignty, and when would India be there?
Like, I fully agree with them. Quantum capabilities will be required, but if I have to look at only the AI stack, the AI stack, if you look at the 5-layer AI stack has been described by our minister, by Jensen, all of them. We are very much there at the energy level. We have sufficient energy sources to power the AI compute. We are there at the data center layer. The data centers that we are able to make are much cheaper than anywhere else in the world. The chip layer is something that we are dependent on. Currently, we do not have AI compute, but then the whole world is dependent on one company, which in turn is dependent on TSMC in Taiwan, which in turn is dependent on ASML in Netherlands. So the chip ecosystem is much like a part of the global supply chain, in which no country has complete control over that layer. But when it comes to foundation models, we saw what Sarvam has built. Many others are following it up, and just like in other countries, one model leads to coming up with several other models, and Sarvam is making it open source. I expect that in the next 1 or 2 years, we'll see many other similar models coming up. Application layer, we are very much there. Out of the 5-layer stack, we are there at 4 layers other than chip layer. And chip, given that we do have design capabilities, with the DLI scheme, I expect that in the next 3 to 5 years, we should be able to design our own AI chip. And of course, taping out may happen at the fabs in Taiwan. But given the investments, as we speak, the Micron facility is being inaugurated today. The first chips are coming out. Tatas are investing in a 28 nanometer chip. But to go from 28 nanometer to a 3 nanometer, or to 2 nanometer, it will be a journey. It may take some time, but ultimately with the right vision, the policy support, we should be able to get there. So currently we are no different from any other country, I would say, when it comes to having a sovereign control over the entire AI stack.
So Shashi, there's a lot of fear that AI will replace jobs. It's a real fear, and there are many sectors are being impacted. So given your work on employability and its future, what is the one skill Indian students should focus on so they don't get replaced or they actually get hired? I mean, I know it's an omnibus question, but your thoughts.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's one skill, but I think there are probably a few traits which are going to be very important in this AI era. First is, I think, learnability. We've got to continuously keep learning. I think learning can never stop. It has to be a lifelong pursuit. Second is deep domain knowledge. In fact, this is what I've been telling every student that I've been meeting with, that you have to get some pick a domain area and go deep in it and develop a very deep understanding. A good example that I keep sharing is the Star Wars analogy, where you have C3PO, which is like your LLMs, very prolific in multiple languages, but the real work is done by the droids, the R2D2s, right? So that's where deep domain knowledge becomes very important. The third is, of course, lateral thinking. You've got to connect the dots across diverse domains to find solutions to problems. I think that's going to be very important going forward. And then, of course, have multiple skills so that, even if there is a period of economic turbulence or uncertainty, you have those skills to fall back upon. And then lastly, what the Prime Minister always says, right? Don't just be a job seeker, be a job creator. I think the greatest thing, learning for me from the AI Summit that was organized by India AI and team, Abhishek and team, was that just the sheer number of Indian startups. I think we have to create that startup culture.
Spiros, let's talk a little bit about AI and the markets. Around the world, there's been a lot of uncertainty. There's global geopolitical flux, of course. But there is the whole debate about whether this whole AI thing is a bubble or a bust. That's affecting the markets, right? One of the reasons why India's markets have been lukewarm in the last few months is because India doesn't really have those big AI companies of the kind that are in the American markets. So when you look at bubbles in the past, what's your is this a bubble or is it or is somewhere in the middle? What are the opportunities you see in India, and from experience, what should we be careful about?
All right, I'm a little biased because I have an AI fund as well, and I don't think it's a bubble. And I make it very quickly. I lived the dot-com bubble in America, and that Cisco built an infrastructure for startups, which a lot of those startups didn't survive. We're building here something with AI, infrastructure, etc., for companies that have so much cash flow that it's not a bubble. Expectation, it's a new time we are now in, that the volatility in the market is just part of it. It's like life. People expect like a line, but then life is not like a line. And there's setbacks, but the direction is clear. If anyone thinks we're in a bubble, it's nice to say. As somebody said, the pessimists sound smart, but the optimists win. it's just going to be volatile, and that's just part of it. And India, with its startup culture, wants to build even further. We will see startups that will go under, but doesn't mean they go under. The good ones get up and do the next one, and it's just, it sounds so simple, but it's so hard to implement. And we are just at the very beginning, and things are moving so fast. And if the smartest guys in the world, the Googles, the Microsofts, you name it, Nvidia, etc., believe so much in the space. I mean, something is because it's their business, but on the other hand, they put their chips on the table because there will be only few winners out there. And the last thing, optimistic, we all have to become chefs, like in a restaurant, because the future will be about using different technologies and building cooking a nice meal.
Let me ask you a question on this. Shashi's worked in the IT sector. There is a big concern in India at the moment about the IT sector and the impact of AI on that. Infosys, for example, had an AI impact day for investors just this month. The IT services sector contributes is not insignificant part of India's GDP, and there are concerns about that. What is your view on that?
With other words, do you think there should be more in it?
No. What is your view on how AI will impact the India's services sector?
Oh, I could sugarcoat it. It will impact but it impacts the whole world workforce. But I think there will be really a lot of jobs. For instance, just quick, there are a lot of smaller companies that don't have the big consultants who tell them, use Anthropic, use this, use that. So there will be even jobs for translating what's out there for smaller companies. It says, look, you don't have the big consultants, but I can tell you what to do. That's one thing. And second, as I go back to being a chef, maybe those guys think of doing in addition of what they have through AI and say, hey, okay, now coding is not my job anymore, but it's important to understand how to solve a problem for somebody. And then they will use coding indirectly. But I think it would be not good to sugarcoat the situation because nobody would here trust us when we talk. I believe we have to say the truth, but we also have to give a solution for the future, which we also believe.
So let me, Nagen, we're running out of time. Your company has worked on Indus, for example, quantum computers. So for the non-technical person, why is having quantum power just as important as having AI compute to make India much more up with the times? If you can explain it to a non-technical audience a little bit.
So let me give this example. Like if you want to solve a real problem, see any technology is as valuable as the impact it has, right? So the impact of solving a real problem will be huge in the big country like India. Okay, so quantum computer can focus on some very fundamental problems, like it can solve diseases, it can solve the fertilizer problem of India, which is very important, right? So that's the reason to own up a quantum computer is very important, apart from having in cloud. And also having a sovereign quantum computer is ultimate security. So although I'm not against NVIDIA, I would say that the kind of import we are doing about NVIDIA chips, it's a major part of our deficit, right? So we have our own foundry now, quantum foundry, which we can manufacture the chip, and we have our own data center. As simple as that. I'm not using a jargon like quantum data center, QSC, our own data center where you can do these fundamental discoveries. Our institutes, there are a lot of fundamental research institutes in India which want to depend on this. That gives us ultimate strength as a nation. As simple as that. We are solving an impactful problem, real problem, with real results, which is required for the masses. It impacts our agriculture, manufacturing, population because of healthcare. So that's the reason we need to have quantum computing.
Right. So Sunil, final word to you. Is in this brave new world of AI, is sort of, we've worked a lot on cyber security. Is quantum security as important now as, say, cyber security used to be?
Yeah, absolutely. The world over, the changes are happening. That's the reason all the regulators are coming in and changing the standards. Good part is that India is world class in quantum communication because we took bet almost a decade ago. Today, even Indian banking, telecom sector, defense, critical infrastructure, everywhere we are doing very, very interesting and very, very serious projects. And I can tell you, all the audiences here also, that we are in the top 3. India today is in top 3 in the world, right, in quantum communication. And globally we are doing projects, not only India, we are exporting this technology to everyone. And that is the good indicator that the world over, this quantum security is now becoming a necessity. Right? And in the next 5 years, so the recent mandates that have come from the regulators, they are saying that if only those enterprises will get AI and quantum secure who start in 2026. If they are not able to start in 2026, they will be left out.
Mr. Singh, final word to you. As the CEO of the India AI mission, for the next 6 months to 12 months, so what are your top 3 priorities?
See, like the top priority will be to measure up to the expectations that have raised across India and across the world. So while our foundation model will stabilize, what we are going to focus on to at least build 100 population scale applications across various domains and scale them up across India. So that's the target that we are working on, and hopefully we'll be able to achieve that in the next 6 to 9 months.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand to this panel, to Mr. Singh, and to all the leaders on this panel. Thanks very much.